miss your blue skies. I miss your clear blue skies and drinking water streams. I miss your mountains. I miss your sunrise and your watercolor scenes. Ooh, Alaska, I'm coming home. I'm coming home.
For 6 years, Jay Hammond and his crew have journeyed across Alaska. Down the trail, they met over 68 unique Alaskans doing unusual, uplifting, often courageous things in a land they trade for no other. As a pilot, commercial fisherman, writer, homesteader, and former governor, Jay's life mirrors the character and spirit of those Alaskans who have carved out a life to their own design. Alaskam is proud to have sponsored the Jay Hammond's Alaska series, an enduring tribute to the grandeur of Alaska's land and the warmth of its people. Join us for a celebration of the wonderful people who call Alaska home.
Alaska, I'm coming home.
How about that?
Alaska.
Having notched a log or two myself in my time, for example, Bella and I built our log home at Lake Clark years ago. I must confess I have a soft spot for a nice-looking log building, and that's why I was bowled over by the workmanship and beauty of the homes, lodges, and meeting halls being built all over Alaska by this man. His name is Jeff Harrison. He calls his company appropriately Log Weavers. They do mighty impressive work. Jeff and his crew just finished roughing in this home in the woods north of Palmer. We followed his progress starting several months ago when the walls were half up, and it was a bit like watching Fred Moccaton's paint. For Jeff truly is an artist at work.
Well, I came to Alaska 12 years ago, and I wanted to go gold mining or logging. I started out mining, and then I went logging, and I wanted to build my own cabin. It took me a couple of years to get it built, and did a pretty good job on it, and a fella down in Healy wanted me to build him a house, and basically just been building houses since then.
How many such structures have you built, to your knowledge, around the state?
70.
70?
Mm-hmm.
My goodness. Primarily where? What locations?
Oh, Fairbanks, North Pole, down probably maybe 20 down in this area.
What you usually contract for is to just do the log work, basically, and then the customer usually finishes off the...
Just the log shell delivered setup. I'm allergic to boards. I don't have anything to do with the foundation or the floor. I like to see the finished floor backfilled when I show up, and I give the roof a haircut, nice, smooth, good roof line to where the carpenter can start nailing his roof on there. I'm a full-time builder. I build all the time, and I practice all the time, and I keep improving.
How many people do you normally have working with you on a job?
Oh, one or two.
Just one or two?
Yeah. Keep the quality up, and it slows sometimes maybe another guy or two, but with the economy the way it is, why, no sense hurrying.
Ready?
Okay, give her a little rotation. A little more. Okay, hold that.
Could go touch in.
One good right hand man like I've got right now, and one good peeler. Good, dependable. We get good communication going when we're working on the job. Each guy knows what the other guy is thinking a lot of the times and what goes next as far as in our stair-step of operations here, and mechanize just as much as we can. I got the log truck sitting right there, and we do all our lifting with the crane that we possibly can. Try to do as much as we can at one time. When we fire up that crane, well, I'll try to set logs everywhere. We use two-way radios and hand signals, and try to keep the communication going all the time. The bigger logs we're using in the house, the medium-sized logs we're using in the garage, and the smaller logs, you see we got a cache started right there. So we'll be using all the pieces and parts and everything. I don't like to use smaller than a 12-inch mid-span diameter log for a house. It's just not warm enough. This is cold climate up here. When you got the equipment to use bigger logs, why not? Most everybody else buys their timber. I buy my own timber sales and log my own house logs. The quantity of logs I use is tremendous, and I just have to have that supply, and I have to have it quite a long time ahead of time.
Tell me, you do 90% of your work perhaps with a chainsaw. Any special type of blade or sharpening or technique that...
No, it's a regular chisel bit chain and not a small tip on the bar, just a regular tip. I do just about everything with this size chainsaw. I started off with bigger chainsaws, hard on the fingers, hands, arms, more vibration. So then I switched back to smaller chainsaws, and there's not quite enough horsepower, so I'm kind of back in the middle right here. This is a nice, easy on the vibration, good on gas, nice balance to it. It's a Swedish saw, John Thread. Boy, there's been more than one time that they've gone over the side of the house there, but not lately. I'm a little more patient now. Try to keep them in good shape. They seem to hold up real well. I rough scribe the logs. First I determine the height of the scribe by the distance between the log and the log underneath. Set the rough scribe at that distance and then scribe it following the bubbles. And the first scribe is the rough scribe. And then we either roll them out or lay them on the floor and cut the rough scribe out. The first thing I do is outline the cut and give it a little bit of depth for the finish scribe and the finish cut, and then take out the meat in the center and then whittle on the rest of it so it can be axed out easily. I just call it slicing the bread. It's a lot more popular now than it has been, say, 10 years ago. It wasn't anywhere near as popular as it is now. I don't know, back to nature or pride in workmanship. It's something you can do yourself. It's kind of fun. I enjoy it a whole lot.
Every once in a while, most of us look at someone else's accomplishments with envy. In my own case, the creations of log weaver Jeff Harrison trigger both envy and admiration. I guess the old criteria used to be if you could slip a cigarette paper between the logs, you were doing, or if you couldn't, you were doing a good job. But normally, any log house I've looked at is some imperfections. Even mine, believe it or not, you can find a place where I've missed a time or two, and there's a little more of a gap than I'd like to admit to. But yours, incredibly, I can't find any such imperfection. I'm a little disgusted with that. You'll have to show me one.
They'll loosen up a little bit with age, but I try to build them just as tight as I can to start with, because as the logs dry out and twist a little bit, why they will move and will loosen up a little bit. But the tighter you start off with, the tighter it will be. And you have to think what's going to happen next, the tools you're going to need next, the tools you're going to need in 3 steps from now. Everything, you have to plan ahead. You got to think a little bit. Just get up early, work hard, quit late. It's a lot of hard work, no question about that. And I have spent a lot of money on the equipment. And it's just, I don't get rich off of the deal for sure, but it's fun. I enjoy doing it. There's an awful lot of, pride in doing a log house because it looks like I've done 90% of the work, and I've only done, 20% maybe, but it looks like I've done so much of the work that that's the feeling of the pride too.
In exceptional harmony with the natural beauty and mystique of Alaska, Jeff's sculptures in spruce serve to enhance rather than insult Mother Nature herself. An unusual circumstance in these days of mass production, pollution, and plastic.
I just enjoy the country and I don't like going to the city. I enjoy working out. I enjoy working out in the brush. There's a real sense of accomplishment. I like to work too. I'm a workaholic. I keep busy. It's just real Alaskan. Quite a lot of people have to agree with that. Yeah, it's the real thing. There's just no question about that.
This is the Pipeline Haul Road. 500 miles of steep grades, sharp curves, and in winter, bone-cracking cold temperatures. During the peak of pipeline construction, up to 500 18-wheelers a day sped up and down this road, bringing supplies and equipment to the huge oil fields of Prudhoe Bay. Today, that flood of rigs has slowed to but a trickle. And with the promise of big bucks gone, most of the pipeline pioneers have beat a retreat to more hospitable climes. This is a story about one who didn't. Here in the Brooks Range, some 260 miles north of Fairbanks and 240 south of Prudhoe, lies Coldfoot, an aptly named goose pimple on the map, literally in the middle of what most folks might call nowhere. It's the last place you'd probably want to live, unless your name is Dick Mackey. What brought you to Alaska?
Desperation. Yeah. I didn't have any money. I had a wife and 3 kids. The youngest one was 3 months old, and I had $14. And it took us 17 days to come from New Hampshire, and we looked like a gypsy caravan. And I was traveling up one of the streets in Mountain View thinking, where am I going to park this outfit tonight, you know? And this GI walked out, and he said, looks like you just came to Alaska. And I says, yeah. He said, need a place to stay? Yeah. Well, he said, I just bought a house. He says, I'm fixing it up. And in the backside's a little efficiency apartment. He said, it's got a bedroom, he says, and a little kitchen, and he says, and a bathroom in it. He said, if you want it, he says, you can have it for $100 a month. I said, if I had $100 a month, I'd consider it. Well, he says, why don't you move into it? He says, and when you get on your feet, you can pay me.
Well, we done.
Yeah.
Today, nearly 30 years later, Dick Mackey's parlayed his $14 grub steak into a thriving operation, America's farthest north truck stop. Since 1980, he's been pumping fuel and perking coffee for a hardy fleet of all-road truckers. The same sort of serendipity that gave him a roof over his head that first night in Anchorage guided his migration north.
All right, see ya. Okay. When they first opened the highway to the public, in fact, under your administration, they had several small contracts, like one was to make pullouts along the road. I got the one for the garbage cans. So we fabricated the garbage cans and brought them up here, and I made the comment to the then superintendent of highway that you couldn't even get a cup of coffee on this road, and it went from there. And we ended up here, what was originally going to be for the 3 months in the summer of 1981, and here we are.
Tell me a little bit about your first year at Coldfoot, the accommodations you had, or did not have, as the case may be.
Well, we had an old school bus that was made into a kitchen, and then we had a camper trailer that Kathy and I were living in, and a tent for our supplies. And we took a bunch of plywood, and we just plywooded the whole thing over and made kind of a lean-to off of this bus, and everyone virtually had a bunk niche along the wall, and whoever was the coldest got the fire in the barrel stove, and hey, we suffered that first winter.
We had to haul water from across the road from the state. We had to haul it in 5-gallon buckets. We also had to slop our gray water. We had no inside plumbing at all, no facilities.
Well, at that time, there weren't no place up and down the road you could get a tire fixed or nothing, you know. And it was, yeah, people was glad to see it open up there.
I notice a bunch of cups with names inscribed on them. I suppose those are your regular patron truck drivers primarily, or what?
Yeah, originally that sign back there, we didn't have any more room. And so we started having cups on the tables. And that's kind of a holdover now. Very few use those cups, but if they looked up there and saw it gone, they wouldn't like it either.
These truckers, they're something else. This is their place. They would stop going north, and if they were ahead of schedule a little bit, they'd pound a few nails. We had 18 fellas help us lift the front wall.
We've got a big tree as the main support here in the restaurant, and they've all carved their initials or CB handle or whatever in it, and they kind of guard this place just like we do. I mean, it's a part of their life as much of any part of the road.
I've unloaded a little bit of plywood for him when he was building his first building, because he used those old mud boxes and a lot of this throwaway stuff. Money was a little tight for Dick in those days.
The reasoning behind having a facility here was to actually sell fuel and do tire repair for this multitude of tourists that were going to come up the road, and you could count them on two hands that whole first summer. But it's increased each year, and up until last year, just thousands of people coming.
Thousands of
people coming.
So the truck flow is dropped from what? A high of how many trucks per day?
But, say 500 trucks in the summer of 1981.
Per day?
Per day.
That'd be darn.
Per day.
To what?
To 25% of that today.
But that has dropped off, but you say the tourism has increased substantially.
That's right. We had 50 rooms, and private individuals coming up the road kept us full almost every night. We had 22 tour buses all season last year.
Oh my.
And nearly every night we were full.
Well, now, how many tour buses do you anticipate, say, next year?
5 times as many.
5 times in 1 year?
Right. We had 22 tour buses last season, and we have 104 booked already for this season.
Well, your original contract required you to be open, 3 months in the summer, is that right?
Right.
And then you expanded to longer and longer periods, but you probably wouldn't have to stay open at all in the winter now, would you?
No, we're open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and I could shut down in the wintertime. Financially, it would be the only intelligent thing to do. But those drivers helped build this place. They regard it as theirs as almost as much as I do, and I'm not going to shut it down as long as I can manage to keep the doors open, because I'm going to accommodate them. Okay. You know, it's different than in town where you've got various people coming in all the time. These are the same guys all the time driving the road, pretty much. And then we're all one big family. You know, you go through their good times, their bad times, their marriages, their kids, and I'm not going to let them down.
We've gone through, as Dick said, marriages, divorces, children. It's great. They mean a lot to you, and we hope we mean something to them.
Dick is real, he's got a good personality. He knows everybody. He always says hi. If you're broke or you need a meal, he don't ever throw you out. You leave a bad check, he don't call the cops on you. So.
We happened upon one reason for Dick's generosity. He and Kathy also deliver mail to the nearby gold mining community of Wiseman. And in the process of giving us a ride along his mail run, Dick related an incident that happened 30 years ago in Anchorage when he was newly arrived, flat broke, and looking for work.
Yeah, when I first came up here, I didn't have a trade and didn't know anyone, and I was standing in the employment line, and this fellow came in and told the gal in the window for the employers that he needed 4 block layers, and so I stepped out of line and tapped him on the shoulder and announced that now he only needed 3. So he told me where to be at a certain time, and I ran around the corner to the old Anchorage hardware store and asked the clerk what I needed for tools to be a professional block layer, and he rounded up some odds and ends there and announced that it came to $17, and then had to tell him that I didn't have $17, but I had a job waiting for me, and so he kind of looked me over for a minute and said, well, all right. He said, when you get your first paycheck, I expect to see you. And that's the attitude that people had, I think. It was not the exception. That was the common way of doing things back in those days. I've helped people out as best I could at the time, and even today, people come in there, they're out of money, they need gas or whatever, and people have helped me, and I try to do the best I can to help them, and to this day, I have not had a person.
Never had one of them.
Not one that didn't fulfill their obligations. Not one.
So that is not necessarily a thing of the past insofar as Alaska is concerned, to being able to...
I hope not. Yeah. I'd like to think that it isn't anyway.
Right. Our mail stop at Wiseman seemed to reinforce the memory of a lot of those Alaskan values. After unloading a week's accumulation of catalog orders and lower 48 letters, we ducked in from the minus 35-degree cold for tea and conversation with a family of gold miners.
The girls thought they had underground circulation.
That's quite a
Yeah.
chunk.
And on our way back to Coldfoot, we watched a miner dip his pail into the ice-covered Koyukuk River for drinking water. There remains here a breath of the Alaskan pioneer spirit that's as refreshing as a blast of January Coldfoot climate.
When I came up here, it didn't take long to look around, and it's what I came to Alaska for, I finally realized. And, you know, I came out here, and I guess I'm kind of a dreamer or adventurer rolled into one, and probably a lot of people that run the Iditarod have the same feeling or anything like that. And there was virtually nothing here, and I stepped back today and I said, hey, you know, it's kind of like a 1980 pioneer of what the people went like years ago.
The Iditarod started in what year?
1973.
You've run it how many times?
I have ran the race, let's see, 9 times.
9 times.
Yeah.
You won it in 78,
1978, right.
And you ran it last year, right? Mm-hmm. You and your boy both.
Right. Then Rick won it in 1983.
You're the only father and son that have won it.
That have won it.
Yeah.
And I have the dubious distinction of being the oldest at the time to have won it. I was 45 when I won it in 78. Rick Swenson and I ran from the Roan checkpoint 800 miles, and I'd say we were never more than 100 yards apart. And coming into Nome, he was in the lead until we came up onto the street. And I felt that I had the faster team and he had perfect control. Well, unless they start splitting seconds, there'll never be another one like it.
Really? How close was it?
1 second.
Mackey is running. Oh, my God. We have Swenson. The team is pulling up almost neck and neck. And Mackey just stopped at the finish line. Neither of them has crossed the finish line at this point. And the race marshal says that makes it Mackey. The lead dog and the dog in front.
I enjoy the dogs. And Iditarod has been a large part of my life and always will be. And I might run it one more time. You can leave here, and it's just excellent training area because you can run where the wind's blowing, you can run in the mountains, you can run on level going, river running, overflow, anything you want on any given day. And I've left here when it was 0, and a matter of a few hours, you get up there in the mountain passes, it could be 50 below and the wind blowing. You know, it doesn't take long before you realize you're about that big in this world. And, you know, it's a challenge. I mean, you look ahead and see a purple mountain range, and a couple days later you look over your shoulder and it's a same purple mountain range. You know you did something.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, darn right.
We keep the dogs primarily because I insist on it. Dick loves the dogs. He still loves to race. The business has taken an awful lot away, but I'll tell you, there was a couple years when Dick didn't even get on the sled. And he aged, he didn't feel well, and he's too young to turn old, so I made him get out on the sled every day just for his own health. He loves it. He loves the dogs, of course, and even those couple of years he wasn't racing, he still had his old buddies down there. And so, I mean, he just isn't Dick without some dogs. He constantly happy. Dick can be upset about something, but nobody knows it. He would never show it to anybody. His eyes are sparkling 99% of the time. He just loves people. And he just makes you feel good about yourself.
Though it was a bus and not a covered wagon that brought Dick and Kathy Mackey here to Coldfoot, they're not unlike the pioneers who first populated these gold-flecked valleys and streams. Here they have curbed, if not conquered, a harsh environment, and in the process of meeting that challenge, have mined rich reward far beyond just the material. What is it about living here that you like?
What is there about living in Alaska that people like? You know, that's about it right there. We've all got to be a little bit different, a little independent. I can drive to Fairbanks in 6 hours, and then I look back at the old-timers here that took a few mules and barged equipment for their mines all the way up the river and then had to eat the mule to get through the winter, you know. And they were tough. Yeah. But don't you think that maybe 100 years from now people are going to say about the same thing? And I think you got the same opportunities today that you had back then.
A little different, but
maybe a few more rules and regulations and take a little bit more money to get started. I don't know, but I still think the opportunity's right here.
And the challenges. It must be the challenge that provides the attraction too.
I've had people ask me, what are you going to do if you ever get rid of this place? And I say, I don't know, but it has to be a challenge. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm not ever going to get rid of it.
If you've spent any time lately scanning magazine racks in your local supermarket, bookstore, or bush trading post, you may have caught a glimpse of a late addition to Alaska's literary fare. It's a magazine entitled simply Alaska Men. And though only in its second year, it boasts soaring popularity. And it even has a centerfold. But don't expect any risque, steamy hunk of beefcake, like, say, in Playgirl. This is strictly family fare, asserts the matronly mother of 9 who midwifed the magazine from nursery to marketplace within her living room. Since we're dealing with Alaska men, she asserts it might better be termed moose cake. Well, tell me, how did you get involved with Alaska Men? Let me rephrase that. How did you get involved with or creating Alaska Men's Magazine?
Well, it was kind of a whim. My husband and I have been known to do some crazy things at times, but we saw a TV show on Donahue where a man from Hope, Alaska, was advertising for mail-order brides, you know.
Yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm. And we got a big kick out of it and realized that here we know so many single guys that are really interested in meeting, either corresponding, writing, whatever. And here are all these girls that are interested in finding them. So we thought, we'll put them together.
Susie, at first thought, a used car flyer format might best serve her matchmaking talents. She decided to give Alaska Men a more sophisticated look. Susie's magazine may look like a glossy, mass-produced publication, but those on her production crew are all from the home front. Susan, this looks like a campaign headquarters. What's going on here?
We're working to sort the mail, and this is my little work crew.
All family members?
Yeah, you can tell we're really the high-powered manufacturers here. Yeah. So sometimes women see him with 3 stamps, they'll know why. He got a little wild.
Oh. What are you doing now? Are you mailing out magazines or answering mail or
everything?
Billing, the whole bit, huh?
My son stamps the return address, and she's putting the labels for the subscriptions that we've already gotten, and he's putting I have a little note that goes in the magazine that tells the men that are already married or taken, so that the women will know, keep abreast of who's still available.
How many pieces of mail do you get?
Sometimes it's about 2,000 letters a week.
A week?
Yeah.
And you answer them all personally.
Yeah, it gets pretty hard sometimes.
Oh, boy.
It's sort of like a personal magazine. They feel like when they're reading it that, they're reading a story that was written by their mother or their aunt. We have a lot of women that write in that they feel like they can really talk to her.
Tell me, Susie, where do you find these men? Do they come from all walks of life or what?
Yes, there's everything from grocery baggers to attorneys, doctors, just everything, because that's the way Alaska is. It's made up of all kinds of people.
We don't look for male models to be in this. We just like to have regular men, that everyday businessmen or fishermen or pilots or doctors.
How about TV producers? Who conducts the interviews with the men?
Myself and my husband, and my husband gets some strange looks sometimes. If he sees a guy, he'll go over and he'll say, "Are you single?" And the guy looks a little apprehensive, and he explains, "That's all right, I'm with Alaska Men Magazine." And
I was confronted in a restaurant lounge type of place. I was just asked if I lived in Alaska, if I was single, and if I wanted to be in the magazine. Wanted to know what kind of magazine this was at first. Here, I wasn't sure what that...
You hadn't heard of it before, right?
No, I haven't. And she explained to me about what it was about, and it sounded interesting, like a nice way to meet people. And
generally like to meet the men and see if they really are a credible type of person, and talk to their relatives. Sometimes if I can't get any information out of the men, I'll call their mothers. Mothers are great. Oh, they tell the best stories. I just love it.
They had contacted my father, or my father had given them a picture, and they said, sure, they'd like to have me. They gave me the particulars as to me being involved with this male magazine, and at first blush I thought, oh, geez, what kind of positions are they going to have me in, and what kind of outfit am I going to be in? And
you're thinking Playboy magazine.
Yeah, exactly.
What are the criteria for inclusion in the magazine?
We joke and say, first of all, he has to be breathing, single, and be interested in corresponding with women.
Herb, what's a nice boy like you doing in a place like this?
Oh, hello, Governor. How are you?
Great. Tell me, Herb, has your appearance in the magazine triggered any interesting contacts?
Nothing I'd like to talk about.
Okay.
Actually, I'd love to talk about it, but any ladies that have anything to do with me have asked me not to tell anybody that they have anything to do with me.
Well, and this also is a family show, so I appreciate your being discreet.
It's a first.
It is a first. I've noticed that. Has this proven to be successful? Have you gotten numbers of folk together? Matchmaking occurred and been an end product? Tell me about some of the success stories.
Well, the one I'm most proud about is my dad.
Your dad?
Yeah, I put my dad in there, took editor's choice there, because my dad needed a wife, and met this really great gal down in California. And they started dating, and about 2 or 3 months later, they ran off to Las Vegas.
Any others, or a significant number, or just a rare?
Well, we've got a few that are in the offings. There's one wedding with Martin Miracle and Gail Bramley that's going to take place New Year's Eve. And she read about him and started writing, and after about 2 months decided that she would come up and meet him. And they just hit it off really good, and they're just really happy. Their families are both excited and think it's such a crazy thing to meet through a magazine.
And I guess it was about my second letter. I asked her kind of, what are your intentions, so to speak, kind of bluntly. And she ended up coming up to visit me. And why, by golly, we had so much in common. We fell in love, and I asked her to marry me. So.
You're getting married when?
New Year's Eve.
And they did. Susie's matchmaking instincts came through, and what started as an idea in Susie's living room has blossomed into a new Alaskan family. Back when we first started shooting the Alaska Men story, we intended to close with a comment that circulation has snowballed to some 15,000. Snowballed? More like an avalanche. I'm told that circulation is now bumping some 200,000, and so popular has the concept become that I understand that there are several spin-offs. The California men, the British men, and Australian men, the Jewish men, and the black men are in the works. So what began in Susie Carter's living room as a modest effort at Alaska matchmaking is about to become an international enterprise. Though Randy Compton grew up a Midwest flatlander, his head was filled with images of birds soaring among majestic mountains. When he finally found them both here in Alaska, he was able to translate his thoughts into a passion for painting. Today, he is a nationally recognized wildlife artist. His fascination for all things which fly flavor his life both inside and outside of his studio. I asked Randy what he did before he found he could paint the wild lands and wildlife he loved so well.
I drove spikes and pulled ties and did back-breaking work, and I painted for fun. I had an accumulation of, it must have been 3 or 4 years of paintings, and I had an art show, and I sold enough artwork at that one show to match a month's wages on the railroad. And at that point in my life, the light bulb flashed on, and I thought, I think I'd much rather paint pictures than drive railroad spikes. When I came to Alaska in 1977, I loved the mountains and the birds and the animals that were in Alaska, and I painted them, and I came from a place where it was real flat. And when I saw the mountains, I just couldn't believe that there were things like that in the world. A painting starts with an idea in your mind. If you're in the mountains and you see a real beautiful scene and you think in your mind, oh, that's beautiful, I'd like to paint that. And you get all excited. And for instance, this is going to be a painting where we'll have the moose is in a muskeg pool. How many times have you seen a big moose in a muskeg pool with the spruce trees in the background, Alaskan spruce trees? You've got this beautiful mountain range in the background, and the moose is sitting there eating. Maybe he's got his head buried, and all at once about 5 or 6 mallards explode off the water, and the moose looks up like what scared the ducks, and the sun hits the mountains, and you build the painting in your mind, and you get really excited because you think, oh boy, this is going to be the painting, this is going to be the masterpiece, this is going to be the one that I've always wanted to do. It's never been the masterpiece, you know, it's never what you hoped it would be. It comes close, and it works, everything works. Why, then you're excited, you're happy, you did the best you could do.
Randy's decisiveness when he chose Alaska as home met its match on a trip outside. There he met his future wife, Crystal. From the time they first saw each other, they knew they would build their lives together.
Randy was home visiting his folks in Illinois, probably 5 or 6 years ago it was. And his dad was pastoring at a church that I went to there.
And I walked in, and on the back pew, I saw this girl that was really, really nice looking girl.
Randy walked into the service late, and I just thought he was very attractive.
I tried to meet her, and I tried to converse with her and talk with her, and that was completely unsuccessful.
He followed me out to my car and asked me how I liked snow.
Like snow?
Yeah, and of course, being from Alaska, that's what he would ask. I didn't know he was from Alaska. And I said, well, I like it just fine, and I got in my car and took off. Well, I went home and told my roommate, I said, I just met the man I'm going to marry, and she said, what's his name? I said, I have no idea, but I know I'm going to marry him.
And at this church, they fill out little visitors cards, and I tried to bribe my dad to get the visitor cards so I could find out her address, and he wouldn't do it.
He left, Illinois and came back here, and I couldn't figure out where this man went. And I thought, surely he's got to buy groceries or gas. So when I'd get off work at night, I'd comb the streets going by gas stations and grocery stores.
So finally, I just said, well, okay, and I just went on and flew my hawks and forgot all about it.
After I got to know his sister pretty well, she was leaving to go back to college and asked me to put my name in her address book. So I turned the page, and there was Randy's address, and I memorized it. And
she sent me a little card, and we started writing letters back and forth, and I went down, finally I went down to visit her and meet her and talk to her.
Took me out on a date, and 3 days later asked me to marry him.
Then you came to Alaska in what year?
84.
Did it meet, exceed, or dismay your expectations?
Randy's apartment dismayed my expectations. I expected to walk into an artist home and see paintings on the wall. There were a couple of empty frames, but no artwork at all. And he had kept his hawks in the house quite a bit. So there was...
Enough said. When Crystal nested in Randy's apartment, the hawks had to leave. They were banished to the backyard. Randy took me there to meet 3 additional members of the Compton family. Now this is June. Huh?
My wife raised June, and when she was a little baby, she'd crawl up on your lap and just go to sleep, just like a little dog. This is Stanley right here.
Stanley.
And usually, you give your falcons really neat names like,
like
Thunder or Lightning or something
I love
like
it.
that. But Stanley is just feisty. You can just kind of see it in the way he acts. I have flown him, and he's a completely different bird. I mean, it's just business. Whereas Grace wants to play. You know, you take her hood off and there's ducks or something, and she might fly around and goof off before she decides to chase them because she just wants to play. I've always enjoyed watching things go through the air. To watch the bird fly through the air is beautiful, and it's relaxing to watch that. It's just fascinating to watch them fly.
Randy's love of anything that flies runs from hawks to modeled airplanes. Sharing that love in both cases, Randy was really talking my language.
When you see it take off, you'll kind of get an idea of the power that it has. It can just climb almost indefinitely. Yeah, I got to think about what I'm doing here so we won't crash.
After my almost 50 years as a pilot, the sophistication of the equipment intrigued me. At Randy's offer, I was happy to take the controls. Hey, watch this maneuver. Oh my gosh, the wing came off. Ah!
We have any pilot comments?
Pilot error, obviously.
Well, that one won't fly again, but it's a good design. I'm sure we'll make one that does, and we'll make a stronger wing on the next one, and we won't let Jay fly it.
There you go. Randy is as adamant in his love for Alaska as he should be about not letting me fly his aircraft again. He told me about his sense of place and passion for the landscape and animals. Both come through in his paintings.
Alaska is a place where you have huge mountains, large sky, and lots of space. You know, you have to do big paintings of the mountains. And it's just a beautiful place. And that just starts to become a part of you, and you want to paint. You know, you never can run out of paintings. I mean, there are billions and millions of different ideas. When I start thinking, well, I just can't think of anything to paint, just go on a trip, go out and look. Or you can go right outside the door and start looking at the ground sometimes and get new ideas for different things. Or look up at the sky and get new ideas for things. Someday what I want to convey with my work is like paint that picture so that it's as the eagle sees it. That's his living room. That's where he lives. You have that habitat, but the animals that live in that habitat, that's as much a part of that landscape. That's his home. When you paint the animal, you have to paint his living room as he sees it. In my own personal opinion, no one has done that yet, and I'd like to do that.